Hello guys, Latif here, and you are welcome to Code with Laticotech. In this video, we'll be looking at Python strings, and this is going to be our fourth lesson. Now we'll be considering what strings are. We get to know what strings are. Then we look at the function of the code marks that are used on strings. Then strings and numbers. We will compare strings and numbers. Then we're going to look at converting strings to floats, and then how to convert numbers to strings. We'll also be considering indexing, and we have the positive indexing and the negative indexing. We are going to be looking at the range of indexes, okay? And then we look at counting number of characters that are in a string. Then we consider concatenation and formatted strings. And then we also look at Python string methods. So let's get started with what strings are. A string is a collection of alphabets, words, or other characters. So strings are basically can be a sentence, a word, a phrase, or a block of sentences. It is a sequence of Unicode characters that is enclosed in quotation marks. It is one of the primitive data structures and is the building blocks for data manipulation. Now, Python has a built-in string class named str. Now, this str is used to convert numbers to strings. Python strings are immutable. Now, this means that they cannot be changed after they are created. Now, imagine typing a message to someone on your phone or your computer, and then the message appears differently on someone's computer. Realize that that's something wrong somewhere. But when we talk about strings, the way you type and then frame your message on your computer, it definitely has to appear the same way on someone's computer or mobile device. Alright, now in Python, strings are enclosed in quote marks, so they can be in single quote marks, double quote marks, or triple quote marks. And this is depending on the function you want it to play for you. Now, consider the example here. These characters that are enclosed here are known as the string. So all these are string. Let's take a look at the function of the quote marks. Now, with a single quote mark, it is used on strings when one text needs to be quoted. So let's look at this example here. So if I'm printing this message out here, my favorite meal is tuwo zafi with light soup. Now, tuwo zafi is a local dish in most West African countries like Ghana, Nigeria, or Niger. Now, it is a local name. It is not English name. So if I want to code this one to appear as it is written, and so I can use these code marks. Now, because of these code marks that are going to come between my sentences, I have to use single quotes so that it wouldn't disrupt my string. So if I put one quote mark here and then I come here and put another quote mark, so what happens is that Python considers all these from mine to is. It will consider it as the string. The rest will be discarded. So, for example, tuwo zafi takes double quotes to avoid disrupting the single quote, as I just explained. We can also use single quote in what we call formatted strings. We start formatted strings with F. Okay, formatted strings helps us to put variables within our string. So you can have the formatted string starting with a single quote. My full name is, then I bring a variable, another variable. Okay, so these are inputs, and I am a programmer. So if I have this code marks here, it means that I have to use double. So all these things are embedded in formatted strings. Then we also have the double quotes. Double quotes are used when one of the text has apostrophe. So let's look at this example. John hasn't paid his dad's bill. Now, hasn't has an apostrophe here, and dad's also has apostrophe. So if we don't use double quote here, then it will, if we use single quote here, this will distract it. It will consider only this part of this as the block of code, I mean string. So in this case, we have to use the double quote. So when you are displaying a message to the user of your program, you need to think about the kind of quote marks to use to display that one. Now from the above example, so you can see the hasn't and that's they contain apostrophe. If single quotes are used, the first apostrophe will end the string at that point. Hence, single quotes are used to avoid these issues. Then we have the triple quote. Now, these ones are used when we will have multiple lines of characters to be presented. So, you have, dear director, you are required to complete the project within 5 working days. Kindly treat this message urgent and act accordingly. Sincerely, Chief Executive Officer. So this looks like quite a series of characters. So with this, I need to use the triple quote. So let's go to our code editor and look at that. So I have my Python here and I've already created my project. If you don't know how to create a project using PyCharm, refer to my previous videos on lesson 2 and 3. Alright, so I've named it Python strings. And as usual, you know about the main.py, we've closed that, we don't need it. So we're going to create a new file. So I'll right click this and select new, then go to Python file. So here we're dealing with code marks. So this is the name of my file. So I'm going to just maximize this, then zoom in. We know how to zoom in, Control plus the mouse wheel, you scroll it and then that's it. Right, so what we're going to do is to consider the single quote marks. Okay, so I'm just going to get an example and then we work on that one. Right, so let me comment this and make it single quote marks. Now remember the previous example I gave you on the slide, so we're going to look at that one. Okay, so let's go on. So I'm going to print out something and then I'll say print. So I'm using single quotes and then I'll write my favorite food is, then double quote, to Zafi, then I quote it, with light soup. This is my string. Okay, so to Zafi has taken double quote, and as a result of that, we need to use a single quote here. So let's run this. So to run again, you click on run and run. Then we select the file that we want to run. So I'm selecting quote marks. And as you can see here, it says my favorite food is to Zafi with light soup. So we realize it has appeared with the quote marks here. So it wouldn't distract the the single quote. If I come in here and I decide to make this a single quote, okay, let's say I'm using single quote here. The moment I type and I get here and do the single quote, have you observed the difference here? It is considering these as a string. These have the errors, and this is a Python keyword, so it might think we want to use some looping here, and then this as well. So that is why it is not giving us that. So if I put another quote mark here, it is going to start from here to this. So all this instruction that will come in your code, what you need to do is to use double quotes on these ones. So you are now telling Python that you are now letting the program realize that from this one, so I'm using single quote here, from this block of code to the last one, so we change here to be single. From this block of code to the last one, we are using a single quote. Okay, so my favorite. So let me just quickly do that. Whilst you try to correct that, it also tries to correct it for you. So as you can see, whilst I'm typing, it's trying to correct that for me. So I'm just going back, else I have to retype everything all over again. So let's just undo those ones, and there we go. Right, now let's consider the formatted string like we talked about. So I'm just going to create something like a program. So let me say single quotes on formatted strings. Now we will deal with formatted strings later. Let's say I have your full name. That is a variable, if you can remember, and I want to allow the user to input. Let me do this. So this is a simple program that we are doing. So I can say first underscore name, and I'm asking the user to input. So I'll say int put, then I quote here, enter your first name. Okay, right, so let's give it a little bit space here, and then I'll come here and say last name. So input, could enter your last name. So if you don't know why we are doing this here, these things here, these are variables. You can refer to my previous video on Python variables. Now, so here we are asking the user to input something, to enter the name. So this is a program that we are dealing with right now. So we are asking the user to input the first name and the last name. Now, once the user does that, we are going to print these things out. So to print it, we can use what we call formatted string. So use F, then use the single quote. So you can say your full name is, okay. So in this case, you give a space and now use the curly brackets this way, and then you now put the variables inside. So I'll put first name, and I can give a space and then put another curly bracelet and put last name. Let me scroll a bit so we can see the whole screen. We can even minimize this one like this. Yeah, so that's good. Right, so we can say your full name is now, and if I want to add something to it, okay, we can say, and you are a programmer. So zoom. Right, so this is the code here. Let's take a look at it carefully. So we are using what we call formatted string. So we will start with F, and with that you begin with the single quote, and that is the beginning of it, and this is the end of it here. So your full name is. Now if you look at this and that, these are variables that are put within a string. So that is why we use the curly braces to put them in, and we can continue with our statement. So let's print this out. So it has given us, remember the flow of what do you call it, of control. It starts with the first line of code, then move to the next one. So it's asking me to enter my first name, as you can see here. So click there and type my first name, Latif, and then last name, Abubakar. And then now if I press enter, it's going to print that for me. So it says your full name is Latif Abubakar and you are a programmer. So first name, that is this one, and then last name, that is that one there. So single quotes are also used in formatted strings. Okay, all right, so moving on, we are going to also look at the double quotes. Okay, so let's just cite another example on that. So I'm just going to wipe all these things. If you can take a look at it. So we are now going to deal with double quotes. So to do that, let's print, and we use double quotes, and we'll see the reason why we are using it. John hasn't paid his dad's bills. Now take a look at it carefully. The reason why we are using the double quote is because within that string the sentences has apostrophe, which are considered as what do you call it, a sign of quoting string. So to avoid any issue here, since these ones contain apostrophe, we are required to use the double quote here. So when we run this, it prints out John hasn't paid his dad's bill. Okay, so if I use a single quote here, then disruption has come, because here it thinks I'm ending it over there, and this one is disregarded, and this from this one to this becomes another string. So this gives us an error, right? So that's the reason why we use this. Right, so moving on, we can also look at the triple quotes. Like I said, this one is used for multi-lines of strings. So let's break this down here. Sorry, we're going to quote 1, 2. So this is how you have it, multi-lines. So you press the double quote, and then you press again the double quote again. So the double quotes can be triple. It can be triple single quotes, or it can be triple double quotes. Okay, so let's say triple. We are dealing with triple single quotes. So you see they are single. So to get this one, you press the quote marks 1, 2, and 3. So when you do that, it will divide it into 3. It will give it 3, and what is between that is where you put your strings. Okay, you can press enter to break it down, so that 3 at the top, 3 down. So then you can now type your what do you call it, strings. So here you can say dear director. Okay, right, then we can say, so you are required to complete the projects within 5 working days. Kindly treat this message urgent and act accordingly. Sincerely, CEO, Chief Executive Officer. So this is how to use the triple single quote or triple double quote. So you then click, and this is what is printed for us. Okay, so likewise we can also use triple. So we can use, let's comment this, triple double quotes. So we print, then we do. So this is going to be double. So you press the shift and press double quote. That's 1, 2, and 3. So we have this. So let's break it down. and let's give this one another sentence. So we can say, dear hack, complete all projects and try your hands on new projects. This will help you improve your level of skills. Yours faithfully, your programmer. See? So let's print this one too. We are running it. So we have this as the first with a single, double, triple quote, and then we also have this one now here. So this is how they work. Okay? All right. So we're moving on. So we are now going to look at strings and numbers. Strings and numbers. Now, Python built-in SCR is used to convert values or numbers into strings. So we'll be looking at that very soon. Note that numbers that are in quotes are strings and are treated as algebraic expressions. So any number that is inside a quote marks is considered as a string. So we are going to look at strings and numbers. So let's go back to our code. So let's create a new file, and so we call it strings and numbers. So let me zoom this. Okay, and let's start with this. Okay, so strings and numbers. So let's say we have a variable called a, and we are assigning it to a number, and yet we've quoted the number as 5. Then we have another variable called b, and we also assign it to another number called 6. Now let's print a variable a plus variable b. So I believe you will consider this as 11, meaning 5 plus 6, which is going to give us what? 11. But this is not the case. This is not the case. This is more like what we call concatenation. We'll be looking at it soon. Here you're adding two strings. You are not adding two values, because values don't go with quote marks. These are considered as strings. So instead of getting 5 plus 6, which is 11, we are going to get 56. So what it does is that it puts, so I'm just running this whilst we go on. Sorry, let me rerun this one. So run and select the right file to run. So we are dealing with strings and numbers. Right, so we have 56 down here. Now what it does is that it puts two strings together, just like attaching them together instead of doing the normal arithmetic calculation. So this is how it does. Let's have another example. Let's say we call this string 1, our first string. Let's call it maybe ABC, and then we go to our second string and we call it maybe is a part of the alphabet. Okay, you can say English alphabet. So string 1 is ABC, string 2 we said are part of the English alphabet. Now let's print string 1 and then string 2 together. So we are using the plus operator. Now when you do this and you print it, let's rerun this down here. So we already have our first one. Now here it says ABC, watch here, ABC are part of the English alphabet. Now it is just linking them together, just attaching them together. Now if you observe here, we have A, B, C and R. They are so close to each other, there's no space there, and that is because there's no space here, neither is there any space here. So anytime we want to combine two phrases or sentences to form a complete one, it's either you put what they call it suffixed the first one with a space, or you prefix the second one with a space. So we can put a space here, and when we rerun it, we'll get that space appearing there. Or we can prefix here with a space, and when we rerun it again, we also get the same space here. So this is how to use these things here. All right. Okay. So one thing we can also consider is multiples of a string, or let's say multiples of a word. Trying to get a word repeating itself so many times. That is what we are going to look at. So if I say we don't use string because it's a Python keyword, so we can call it string 1 like this. Let me use a different word, st1. So I'm just going to call, and let's equal to, and I'm giving a string here. I will just say programmers. Now if I come down here, I can print, I can just say, let me put print. Yeah, we can do that. So different ways. I'm thinking of using the easiest way, but this is also okay. I can say print st1. That is the first string there, and I'll multiply it by a number, let's say 4. In this case, I'm asking the program to print programmers 4 times. So let's run this and see. So look at this here, programmers. As you can see, there's no space between them, so I can even suffix here with a space, and then let's run that so we see the difference. So you see programmers. So you can run it multiple times if you want a program to produce series of numbers. You can design a program asking your user to enter a particular keyword, and then you want to print that keywords multiples of times. Let's say you can create a program that is supposed to repeat certain sentences. Okay, so you can do that. Ask the what do you call it. So let's quickly just create that program and look at it, what I'm talking about. So program to print users entries, okay. So let's see, user entry, that's our variable, is equal to, then we say input. We are now asking the user to do, type your what can we use? Let's say type your ID, or just type your statement. So let's say type your statement. Let's give a space here. Then now I can say print user entry times a couple of times. So let's just say print it 5 times. So let's run this. So it runs the rest and comes here. So type your statement. I am a programmer in Python and VB.NET. So that's the statement. So I press enter, and it says I am a programmer in Python and VB.NET. I'm a programmer in Python and VB.NET. I'm a programmer in Python, so there's no space here, and that is from here. That is where we can create the space. Maybe we can add a space in our strings. Okay, so basically this is how to use the strings and numbers. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's see how we can convert strings to numbers or floats. Floats are floats or integers. Floats are decimals, and integers are what do you call it? Positive and negative numbers. Strings can be converted into floats or decimals or integers using the int or float. So we're going to consider these keywords here, and that is what we can use to change our strings into float or integers. So let's take a look at the examples. So I'll create a new file as usual. So I'll call it numbers to which one are we looking at? Is it strings to numbers? So let's look at that one too. Scroll here. Right, so we are going to look at strings to numbers. First of all, let's consider strings to integers. So let's declare a variable. Let's call it x equal, and we'll code this and make it maybe 10. And then we have y equal, and we also have it to be maybe 34. And then we also, let's say we are printing x plus y. X plus y. So let's look at the output first. So I'm going to click on run, since this is a new file, and run again, and we're dealing with strings to numbers. In fact, you can put all your codes under one file, but I'm trying to make it separate so that it can be good for referencing, and I can share these files to you. Now look at this. We have 10 here and we have 34 here. Now 10 and 34, if we are adding 10 to 34, we're supposed to get 44, but we are already getting 1034. This is not 1000, this is just 1034, like a string. It's like a name that is put together. Okay, so in order to make Python realize that these things are numbers, actual numbers like integers, we need to prefix each of them with the int keyword. Now there are different ways of doing it. Okay, so I can put them here, I can put the int here, or I can come to the print aspect and put them also over there. Okay, let's say I open bracket here, put int, and I go over there and close this. So let's run this and see. Sorry, so this wouldn't work. Right now it is considering probably one of them to be the integer and the other one no, it still considers them as strings. So what you can do is this. We have int, print int, and you can close this one, so you are giving it separate int, and you come to the y and also type your int and open and close this one too. So let's take a look at it. So we have a bigger first bracket here is for everything that is supposed to be printed from this keyword here. Now inside it we give int to this x and give int to this y. So we also put it in a bracket and bracket here. So in this case we are declaring them separately. So int x, we are changing it to integer and changing this one to also integer before we are adding them. So let's rerun this one. So as you can see we have 44 here. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is that we can prefix it. Okay, I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Let me just say different approach. I'm just supposed to paste it here. I'll change the values here, maybe 20, and then I'll make it 44. So in this case I will just come here So let me take this off. Let's come to this. From this place I can put my int and put this in a bracket. So, and then come here to int and put it in a bracket like this. So what I'm doing is that I've already converted them into integers. Then I can just type print x plus y. In this case, it will definitely work for me. So let's click on it. So 44 for the first one and 64 for this one too. So these are different ways on it. You can print the int keys here, or you can start from the other the top part. Okay, so that is how to do the string to integers. Let's consider strings to what do you call it? Strings to floats. Floats are like decimals, so we're going to do that. So let's also consider this as a num1 equal, we could 3.5, num2 equal, we could 2.8, print num1 plus num2. Let's run this and see. So here it is just putting them together. It has 3.5, 2.5. You know, there's no numbers as this. You know, we only have one decimal, a decimal point within a number, so it cannot be separate. So to avoid this, just like we did for the first, procedure, I'm just copying this and I'm going to replace it here. Let me just clean this and type so we see. So if I want to do it, I just type this, open my first bracket, then type float, open the first bracket for num1. Then you go on, put your operation sign, then you type again float, and that will be for num2. So in this case, I've converted num2 to float and num1 to float. So float is used to convert a string to a float number, and then int is also used to convert a string to an integer. So let's run this one. So you can see here 6.3. So same method can be applied here. You can start the so I'm just going to let me just copy this here, paste it here, and then just change here to different approach. And this place, it is going to be a float, and this one too is going to be a float. Now take a look at this here. These numbers that I have here, they don't have any decimals like 20 point something, but the final answer will change it to a decimal. So let's run it. It's going to give me a 64.0 because I've asked, as you can see down there, I've asked it to convert them to decimal, so it definitely have to be in the float format. So this is how to convert strings to numbers, that is in integers, and then into float. Right. Now we're going to look at how to convert these numbers back to strings. Okay. Now, like I said earlier on, numbers can be converted into strings using the Python's built-in class str. So you just like we've attached int and float to the the numbers, the strings. Here we are going to attach str to get our string. So let's get back to our code editor. So here we're creating a new file, and that is going to be numbers to string. This is our new file here. So let's start with this one. So this is going to be numbers to strings. Yeah, good. Okay, so let's declare some variables. So call this num1 equal 6, num2 equal 4. Now let's take a look at this. So let's declare another variable called answer. Ans equals, let me just add this, so num1 plus num2, and we print the answer. So what do you think the result is going to be? What do you think the result is going to be? Leave your comment down below. You can pause the video and leave your comment down below, and then you come back and look at the results. Okay, so right, so let's run this one. To run again, this is a new file, so we click file, then run and run. Now we're dealing with numbers to strings, right? Yeah, exactly. So we have 10. Definitely, because this is like an integer, we don't need to put in there, it stands as an integer, and when we add them direct, it does that. You can refer to my video on operators and you look at this thing. But what we are trying to do is that instead of being numbers adding to a number to show what do you call it, an integer, we want to convert the integer to a string. And this is possible when you ask, maybe you can create a program by asking the user to enter some series of numbers and you want to put them together. For instance, you might want to use a date of birth plus maybe a certain number, phone number. You want to combine both into one ID number for the user. So you can create a program like that. We'll be looking at that very, very soon. So now that we're going to convert these things into string, we can begin by putting str here, str for this, and we also convert this one to a string by using str, and then we come here and close it. So this indicates that we've converted num1, which is an integer, into a string. We've also converted num2, which is also an integer, into a string. So let's run this one now. Don't forget about the previous value we had, which was 10. Now when we run, we're supposed to get 64. You can see it there, because that's converted them to strings. So you're putting them together. Okay, and this can be done on even floats. So if I change this number here to 0.56, this number, this is a float, this is an integer, and I rerun this, it's going to give me 64.56 because we're putting them together. Okay, let's try and see if we can create a program to accept DOB, date of birth, and phone number. So let's go in. Let's call this date of birth. So that's my variable. And I'll say input. Enter your month. Okay, enter the day and month of your birth in this format. So let's give the format. I'm just going to try to create a so in this format, DDMM. So date, month. So we're going to do that. Okay. So then we come here, phone. So let's give this input. Let's code this. Enter the last 4 digits of your phone number in this format. So we can just use XXXX. So that's the last 4 digits. So let's go on. Now when the person enters it, then we now say print. So we're going to print the person's ID number your ID number is, then we go on to, okay, so let me see, we can use a formatted string to do this. Yes, I think I'm going to do that one. I'm going to use formatted string, so I'll just use F, formatted string. We did this one earlier on, so you can go back to the video and watch the formatted string we did it, but we're doing more on this one, on the formatted string. So I will just say your ID number is, now I use a curly bracket to put date of birth, and then no space, I'll put another curly bracket and put phone. So in this case, it is going to combine these numbers that is inputted. So let's run this one. So we just run. So the first one is already done. That is the first line. Now here is asking us enter the day and month of your birth in this format. So DDMM. So the day and the month. So if you are using, maybe you are 8, so you can put 08 because it's DD, and then the month. If your month is maybe June or July, so if July is 7, so you can say 07, and let's press enter. Now it's asking us to enter the last digit of our phone number. Okay, so it can be 4562. Then we press enter. Now it says your ID number is 08074563. So this is a good program you can design for people to put their inputs. They combine some numbers to give another number. Okay, and if you watch some of the web applications that will go on, sometimes they combine our date of birth and some our phone numbers to form an ID, and then they present it as automatically generated from the program. So this is what you can use it to do. So basically, this is how we convert numbers to strings. We use the str. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so I think we are moving on to, let's see what we have. Okay, so we'll be looking at string indexing. Okay, now we'll be considering the positive aspect, then we come to the negative. Indexing allows you to get or display a particular character or series of characters from a string. Now if you have a series of characters and you want to slice it, okay, we call it slicing. You want to slice it and get some few words out of it, we use indexing. And we have the positive method and then the negative method. Now we use the square brackets for indexing. Let's look at this first example here. We have this variable, my favorite food. Rice and stew is my favorite food. Print my favorite food, so we are printing it. Then we bring in this square bracket inside and we are indexing it to 10. Now indexing is done like we're using digits. Okay, so we start from 0. So you start from, since it's positive, you start from the left to the right. Okay, so we count from 0, 1, 2, 3, including space. We count including space. Okay, so we count from, so note the 10th character starts from 0. Starting from 0 is T, and this includes count of spaces and special characters. Counting in positive indexes starts from the left to the right. So let's look at this. So we start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is T, and therefore our output will be T. Okay, so let's look at this one in our code editor. So I'm creating a file called Python string indexing, or positive indexing. Okay, so string positive indexing. This is all for, let's zoom that out to do our code. So positive indexing. Okay, so let's say food. This is my variable, and then I'll type my favorite food is rice with chicken. Here. So now we are going to do this indexing. We are going to slice it up. Okay, so we're going to print, and we print the variable, which is food, and then don't put anything, or don't put any comma. You just put your curly brackets. To get your curly brackets, you just press your what do you call it? It is on after the letter P. You can see it there. Just press it. Okay, and now you slice it. So let's try and put a number there, which is 10, and then let's run this. So we do run again, and now select, so positive. So we go there. So we have T. Let's change the number to maybe 14 and run that again, and we have O. So we can count here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You can see it there. So this is how we do our slicing. Okay, so it's very simple. You just consider the number that you're going to use there. Okay, I'm just going to do the negative indexing here. Okay, so let's just take a look at it. Negative indexing. So indexing can be negative and counted from the right to the left. Remember, the positive is from the left to the right, but the negative is from the right to the left. Okay, so we can also run that one also and look at how it looks like. So I'm just going to do negative indexing. All right, so I'm just going to copy the whole of this code and put it here. Now negative, it means you put a negative value. So just put a negative value here and then run it. There are some things we need to take note of on the negative indexing, okay, so that we wouldn't get some errors. So I'm just going to check something. -4. Okay, so let's go back to our code. Right, so let's run this and see. So we have O. Let me just change this one here to something else. Maybe I put 6 and run it. So the same O, 6 is O. That's strange. Let me put 8 here. We have R and then E. We are dealing with the negative. -14. So we start from here. So here you don't start with 0. So you just start from the negative. So -14. So -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you start counting backwards. Okay, let's make it 13, and you see something here. Now there's nothing printed out here because 13 is an empty space. So see, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, which is empty space. Now sometimes it might go over and you don't even get anything, so it might give you none, meaning the indexing is over the range. So it has a range from positive to the last positive, or the other way around. Okay, there's a way of counting the whole of it to know how many characters you have. Okay, so we'll be looking at that one, but let me just show you how to count the whole characters you have in your program. I'm copying this to put it here. Sorry, this one to copy. I just print here, print, open back. There's a Python key called len. So len food, len. So it will count the whole characters for us. So let's run this. So there are 38. So if I decide to make here 39, let's run it and see. So we have an error because it has run out of the range. There is no character there. So because the total number is 38. Okay, so len is used when I run 38. Same thing, it will not give me because it starts from 0. So it's supposed, the end value is supposed to be 7. You start from 0 to the last value, which is what? 37. Don't forget this thing. So whenever you get a series of characters, the first value is indexed at 0 and the last one is indexed at counting from 0 to the last one. So to count the total, you can use this keyword called len to count that. Right, so this is what we call indexing in Python. Alright, let's quickly look at string indexing. That is range of indexes. We're going to look at the range from, we can slice a word out of a series of characters. So we are slicing a full one. It's more like what we just did, but this one we are slicing it out. I mean, we are getting series of words out of it. So let's look at create a new file and call it range of string indexing. Right, so let me zoom this one also. So now in this one we are going to have different ways of doing it. Let's start with the first example. So a range of indexes. Okay, now I'm going to declare my variable fav subject equal, and I type my favorite subject is computing. Okay, now we're going to print. So if I print, let's first of all, like I showed you about len, I want to see how many characters we have in this. So len fav subject, let's see what we have, how many characters we have. This is just to try and see how many characters we have in there. Okay, so I'm going to run and run again and pick the new one. So I have 33 of them, so that's what we know. I'm just going to leave it as that. So now we're going to print from a range. So print fav subject, put the square brackets, and remember the range starts from 0 to, now remember there are 33. So if I want to print the whole thing, and I have to type 32, so it means the range starts from 0 to 32. Remember they are supposed to be 33, but because we start from 0, counting from 0, then it's going to be reduced by -1, so it will be 32. So when I print this, it's going to print the whole of this for me. So let's click that. So my favorite subject is computing. Sorry, let me add the 3 and C. Sorry, computing. So since the len is 33, with the range of characters, you can add the last number there. So it will print the whole of that for you. Now to slice something out, let's just slice it from 0 to 6 and then see what we have. We have my fav. Okay, so this is how you slice words out, out from a series of characters. Let's try and make it 3. You have my and then the space over there. Okay, so 0 1 0 1, so that will be 3. So including the 0, so yeah, including the space, right? So with range of indexes, we start from 0 and we end at the actual total number there. So let's take note of that one. Okay, now let's see, another thing that we need to take note. Let me just go back to this one. Now from this example that we have here, we have 0 to 6 and we have my fav. From the example above, 0 is the start range and 6 is the end range. You can, however, remove either the start or end range. Now when you remove either of them, it is going to print everything for you. Now removing the start range, and you have something like this, it will print from the first index to the last, which is to 7. So this, without the 0, it shows that it should just start from that first character. So whilst removing the end range, will end range, so it will start from 2 and go to the last character. Okay, so let's take a look at that one too. So here I can remove the end, or I can remove this one. Okay, I can either remove both like this and run it. So it's printing the whole thing for me because I didn't give it where to start and where to end. Okay, I can also put something here, maybe 8. So it means it will start from the beginning and get to the 8th one and stop there. I can also remove this one and start somewhere. Maybe I'll start from 5 and print. So it cuts it. So look at it, it has cut from here and goes to the last part of it. So this is how we slice words using indexing. Okay, all right, so that is it. Let's see what we have next. Counting characters. I think we just did this one. Python built-in class len is used to count the number of characters in a string. So we just did this one. So when you want to count the characters, you just put the len and then you can count them. Okay, right. Then finally we'll be looking at concatenation and then formatted strings. Formatted string, we just looked at it earlier on. So let's just look at the concatenation and that will be it for us. So quickly, string concatenation involves joining 2 or more strings to create a single new line. In order to merge 2 strings into a single object, you may use the plus operator. I think we did this one from the previous, the beginning of the lesson, and we also did that of the formatted string. But we'll just take a brief look at it and then we will go on. So let's go and look at the formatted string here. So just create a file and Python file. So it is going to be concatenation and formatted string. Right, so let me zoom this. So let's start with concatenations. Right, so let's say I have pieces of words that I want to put together. I think if you can recall from the beginning of the lesson or part of this, we did something like adding numbers somewhere and we are forming what do you call it, the ID number for maybe an employee or something like that. Okay, so let's see this example. Let me say greetings equal hello world. Okay, maybe let me do this one. Hello hyphen world. Okay, and now maybe let me separate that one. I have to separate it. I can do hello with this, and then I will come to address C. I will just call it address equal. Now put this one world. Okay, and put exclamation or just avoid this one. Hello world. Now I can print greetings plus address. So let me run and run the last one here. So it has printed hello world for me. It's just that is how we concatenate. We use a addition operator to concatenate. Now watch what is going to happen here. There is no space here. It doesn't look eligible for reading. Are you getting it? So we can't make it more readable. Okay, let's come here. I'm just going to leave that one and do it more readable. So we can separate them by giving each part a variable, and finally we put them together and we have more legible part of it. And you can even create a program that allows users to input several words and you put the words together and you create something. You can create a program for kids in school. So they put words, and then you put the words together and form a sentence. So you can ask this child to do something like the subject, verb, object agreement. You can do some of these things, and then let the first variable being the subject, and the second variable be a verb, and then the other one being maybe the object, and then you put them together to form a sentence for the child. So these are programs that we can create using Python. So let's look at this one. So let's make it more readable. So I can say greetings. Let me call this greetings 1. I want to just make it different from what we have here. Equal. So let's code this. Hello. So I'm just going to leave the hello without exclamation mark. Then I go to the next thing. I'll call it, what do you call it? Punctuation equal. So I'm just putting the punctuation mark, which is this one. Then I come to, I'll put something called separator. That is spacing. I want to space it, so I'll put this and put space between them. I'll explain this thing. Let me just finish with the variables. And now I can have the address. Let me call it address 1, and that will be world. So here's what I want to do. I want to separate the hello from the punctuation mark, and then there's a space so that the space will come between them, and then the address will come next. So what we do, we can print. These are series of variables we are printing. So greetings 1 plus punctuation will come plus the separator, as in the space, okay, then plus the address 1. So let's print this one out and look at the difference now. So you see this looks more readable. Are you getting it? So you can do that one here. Okay, all right, so that is how to do this. Let's quickly try to create a project under this one. Project. So let's say we are asking the student to put subject equals input. So we'll give a message. Enter a noun. Enter a noun. Then let's say verb. Input. Enter a verb. Then we can come here, objects, input, enter an object. So we can have this. Now let's say we have a boy. So I think object is a Python keyword, so I'm going to say objects. So subject, so maybe you use a name like John, and then the verb is building. Then we'll now bring the objects. What do you call it? Cars. John is building cars. So let's look at this. And we are going to just add the formatted string here. So let's look how to print. Use your formatted string. You use it whenever you have variables that require inputs. That's the best way to use the formatted strings. So we are putting the subject first. Then we bring a space and put is. So John is. They will bring the verb, and that is here, and put another space. John is building. Then you bring the objects. You can go here and then put a full stop. Object is a Python, so objects. So let's print that and see. So it has hello world. So now come here, enter now. So I will just say Mr. John enter verb, building or object, robots. So it reads, Mr. John is building robots. See, form the sentence for us by using formatted strings and using concatenations. So the concatenations helps here. So here, what do you call it? This is formatted strings is a substitute for concatenation. Okay, another way of doing this, you can say print open bracket, then you come here and you put this. You can put the subject, then you come and put space. Remember, we are printing a string, so I can put this one, put my, what do you call it, subject here. Sorry. Okay, let me run this and see something. I want to be sure if I'm not getting any let me just put something here. Jane, so it printed this one. That's not what I'm looking for. When you are using formatted string, you put your code marks and you put them inside. But when you are just using normal string and you want to put your variables, you can just code the variable, go out, put a plus, put your space, and put a space. So I am adding the subject to a space, and then I put another plus and put is, and give a space and put another plus. Then this time I'm putting another variable, which is verb, then give space, so plus space, and give another space and put another plus, then put objects. So let's run this and see. So let me use Mr. John building what do you call it, cars. Okay, so I had an error here. Let's see what the error is. So anytime you get an error, this is the message you get out of it. So we are getting error and it's pointing at the error for us here. Okay, so that is the plus sign. So getting how this error runs. So basically, looking at this error, the best way to use what do you call it, this is to use the formatted string. Here I can prefix here with the formatted string here and run it. But if I'm doing that, then there's no need to use this plus here, just like we have it here. There's no need to use the plus here or the is and all this, because if I run it, will be printing this as they have been quoted here. So let's just run it and look at it. So if I say Johnny building cars, it will print it, but it's giving us these ones. So the best way is to use the formatted string when you have a situation like this. So these are what you call it, some of the things we consider in the Python strings. Now Python string methods, we will be looking at that in part, the second part of this video, but that will be in another session. Now, Python string methods are a collection of inbuilt Python functions that operates on lists. Note, every string method does not change the original string, instead returns new string with the change attribute. Now, these are some of the string methods in Python. Okay, how to capitalize something. Okay, so print, if I have something like this and I click on print greetings.capitalize, here it is going to capitalize, what do you call it? This is the output. It will capitalize only the first word. And if you want to do case fold is like making all of them lowercase. That is the case fold. Okay, we'll be doing this when we get to maybe strings, lists. Okay, and then .count, also how to count, just like we did in the indexing. But you can also use .count to count the words. Okay, like I said, in the next part of this video we'll be looking at the string methods, which is going to be a bit brief there. And then we have the index method that like we did, and then we have rnorm. We'll be looking at all these things. Okay, and the rest are here: alpha, and then the ASCII code, and then is decimal, is digits, and the rest. So this is what we can do for now. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for the next video. Take care and stay safe. Bye for now.